Hello, I'm John Kerr from Mastering Technical Sales, and you are watching The Cloud Therapist.
Hello and welcome to the Cloud Therapist Shorts. I'm Richard Simon. Today's talk is a top 5 tips for sales engineers. I have the pleasure of welcoming back John Kerr from Mastering Technical Sales. MTS provide professional skills training for sales engineers globally. Hello, John. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderfully well, Richard. As you can see, it's a casual Friday here in sunny Florida. So
every time I have you on, you're always tempting me about the temperature and things like that. So it's great. It's great to have you back on, then, John. Really appreciate you coming on to do this talk. So yeah, let's just dive straight into your top 5 tips for sales engineers, please.
Sure. So quick overview before we start. So there's 5 tips. One of them is going to be behavioral. One of them is going to deal with business value discovery. One is a tactical tip around demos. One's about slides and why you shouldn't use them. And the last one we'll aptly call becoming the fabulous sales engineer. So that's what we're going to cover.
Fantastic.
So you're probably already impatient right now. So let's go into the first topic, which is patience, right?
Yes.
So patience is a behavioral thing and not often something that is displayed in great quantity by sales teams around the world, right? Yet there's a lot to be said for patience in the sales engineer, and I'll give you 3 specific examples why that's important.
Yeah.
The first one is the use of pauses and silence when you're dealing with customers. So there's a ton of research out there from companies like Gong.io that show that poor performing sales teams pause 0.6 seconds between sentences and questions, whereas good performing sales teams pause 2 to 3 seconds between questions. And that shows the customer that A, you're listening, and B, gives the customer time to give you some additional information. So that's patience, as in don't jump in and fill the silence. Right? So that's part 1. Part 2 revolves around have the patience to always ask one more question. Yeah, so you never ever want to leave a call with a piece of information or data that you don't know. So have patience and find the right time and ask that additional question before dashing into the demo or diving into the presentation. And then part 3 of patience is don't start talking about your technology, about your product until you know why the customer cares about it.
Right.
So example, I might say to you, Richard, why don't you tell them about your reverse network transwarp osmotic protection processes? And you have no idea why you might be talking about that, right? Yeah. And it's in the next release, by the way.
Right.
So instead, you might say, John, I was thinking the same thing. And then you pivot back to the client and say, so if you could just tell me a little bit more about how you utilize that technology now, I'd give you a far more focused answer. So what you're doing is a barter and say, give me more information and I can give you a more focused answer rather than just diving in and guessing.
Right.
So that's the art of patience.
Cool. Excellent. What's the next one for us?
So the next one is around business value discovery, and I call this time, money, and people. There's a lot of effort that goes into business value discovery and even technical discovery around formulating the right questions and a process to go through it and framework and the art of the possible and everything. And there's very little time that's spent on the answers. As in, what do you as the sales engineer want to hear from the customer? Okay? So we say, what you want to listen for is time, money, or people. Okay? So if you can get the customer to say, we'd like to do this 3 days faster, or I only want one person to work on this for half a day instead of 5 people for a week, or we have an upcoming maintenance payment of £250,000 that we want to avoid in April, that's an example of time, people, or money. So as a sales engineer / salesperson team, if you can get the customer to give you a business driver that relates to time, people, or money, that's a job well done because they're fungible, right? You give me one of them, I can convert it into one of the other 2. So that's tip number 2 is TMP, time, people, money. That's what you listen for.
Excellent. And I'm really curious about your third one. So I can't wait for you to dive into that.
So the third one, visual aid here, it's called fix the damn mouse. It's a very tactical tip. So Richard, what is the background color of most pieces of software that you use on a day-to-day basis? The background color of the screen?
White.
It's white, right?
Yeah.
And what is the color of the mouse pointer by default?
Oh, it's white as well.
It's white as well.
With a black outline, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the proverbial white cat in a snowstorm, right? It's really hard to see the mouse when you're doing the demo.
Yeah.
So fix the mouse means go into your settings, whatever device you're on, and invert it. So you then have a black mouse pointer and double its size.
Right.
And then you can also use mouse enhancement software that makes it flash and beep and put boxes around it. The reason you do this is so the customer can see your mouse and what you're pointing at. And that way, they're not expending brain cycles trying to figure out where the heck you are on the screen and what you're doing and your navigation. Instead, they're focusing on the outcome. So that's fix the damn mouse. Simple, tactical, one-time thing. 2/3 of SEs do not do it.
Excellent. And for those, just a quick tip for those using command line for their demonstrations. Again, there's obviously different ways of changing colors for the outputs and things like that as well on that one. Excellent.
Yes. Yeah. So again, just make it visually appealing
exactly.
for the customer so they can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Number 4.
Right. So number 4 is a larger one, and it's dump your slides. So think about it. I mean, if I go back to when I was a senior IT exec or a CIO, I mean, Richard, how many slides do you think I saw in an average month?
I wouldn't even dare to guess that one, John.
Yeah. So a lot, right?
I'm sure.
A lot, like hundreds, if not thousands.
Right.
The majority of them were internal slides, right? And you can just imagine what kind of slides, a network engineer or security analyst would show a CIO, right? That's scary. So the slides that vendors come in with and present, are usually far better quality than internal slides.
Sure.
How do you differentiate and make your slide different from all the other slides that your customers see? It's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? So the answer is dump your slides and go visual. So there's the proverbial, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So whether it's an electronic stylus or an old-fashioned pen, sketch it out.
Right.
And if you truly believe a picture is worth 1,000 words, it takes the average sales engineer 6.5 minutes to go through 1,000 words. So if you can sketch something out from the customer and get them to collaborate with you, electronically or physically, what you then have is a joint solution. It also greatly enhances the credibility of the SE or even the sales rep because it's something that you've created, right? I call it seat to keyboard. It comes out of your brain on the screen. And it's something that belongs to you. It's not something that some product marketing fella back in corporate has designed and built. It is yours. So it's far more personable, and it's a great way to drive the sales motion forward. So don't always resort to PowerPoint or Google Slides. Even in a virtual world, if you have an opportunity to sketch something out and draw something for the customer, then take that opportunity and do it. It will differentiate you from your competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, I think, a lot of the engagements I've had over the years and more recently, the whiteboarding something with the customer is infinitely more interactive, and it just gets them thinking and pointing and asking questions and things like that. So I do wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, it's an amazing technique. And even if you're delivering virtually, here we are, we're using Zoom, right? I could put a slide up and then I could annotate on top of the slide. So you can throw a complicated architecture diagram out and then annotate it over the top. You don't have to start from a blank page. So there's so many ways to go with it.
Absolutely. Okay, and your 5th one?
All right, so the 5th one is also a little intriguing, I hope. So we want you to be an absolutely fabulous sales engineer. And FAB stands for features, advantages, and benefits. Right? So it's a very old concept in the world of sales, created by a guy called Neil Rackham, like 35 years ago when he worked at IBM.
Right.
And if you think about it, we as sales engineers are great at features. We love features. We love the Fs, right? We live and die by them. We're okay at advantages. Sometimes we talk about those. And mostly we are terrible at expressing the benefits.
Right.
So as a very quick everyday example and illustration, here we have a coffee mug. right? Actually, that's a bit of Silicon Valley history. That's a Oracle coffee mug for the
Oh, okay.
because they're from 1988. How scary
Wow.
is that? So here's an illustration. So this coffee cup has a handle, right?
Yeah.
So that's a feature. It's something that the coffee cup has. An advantage is what it does. So
Yeah.
what does this handle do for me, Richard?
Yeah. So you're able to hold the cup, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm able to hold the cup and I
Yeah.
don't burn my fingers, right? Compared to an old
Correct. Yeah.
polystyrene cup.
Yeah.
So most of us as engineers, we stop right there because it's
Right.
blatantly obvious. It's a great idea to be able to get a good grip on the cup and not burn your fingers.
Right.
But the benefit is, what does it mean to the customer?
Right.
So what does it mean to me? Well, if I don't burn my fingers, it
Yeah.
means I don't have to go to the emergency room of the hospital.
Yeah.
I can continue to code, play tennis, the violin, whatever it is.
Right.
So reps are much better at benefits than we as sales engineers are.
Sure.
So every time you have a slide, even though I just told you in the last tip not to use slides, we still have to, right? Every time you see the word feature or advantage or benefit on a slide, make sure it truly is one of those, because marketing people are mainly clueless about it.
Sure.
No offense to my marketing friends. And then if you have one of those classic slides where you've got, a screenshot on the left-hand side or a piece of hardware and 9 bullet points down the right that list features, in the speaker notes, you should put the corresponding advantages and benefits, because somebody in the room is going to care about the benefits. And usually, right, you see how this all works now. We'll link back to one of the earlier tips. Usually the benefits come in form of either time, money, or people.
Right.
So that is the absolutely fabulous sales engineer. Don't just stop at the features, go to the advantages, and then finish off with benefits.
Excellent. Well, John, that's fantastic. That's your top 5 tips. I really appreciate that. I think that's I'm always sort of fascinated by that sort of whole space, and having been a sort of sales engineer and done that multiple times and been a favorite role that I've done in the past, I always kind of find it fascinating, kind of how that sort of space progresses and sort of all the different tips of how you can kind of engage with customers. And I think that's really brilliant. So I will certainly provide more information on you guys on MTS and on your website and all the other stuff in the description of the video. You also have, though, a 4th edition of your Mastering Technical Sales, the Sales Engineer's Handbook book, coming out in April. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. It actually just went to the publisher today. So
fantastic.
Release soon. It's a totally rewritten edition. So the 3rd edition came out in 2014. So there's been a lot of advances in technology as well as just sales techniques. Since then, everything's become virtualized and cloudified, and we have the consumption model, value engineering. So there's an incredible amount of new content in there. So it was time to update it and come out with the new book. So that will hit the streets shortly, and I'm thrilled.
Fantastic. Well, John, thank you again for coming on, and hope we can do another talk soon.
I look forward to it, Richard. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.